So with this video, it's another rambling video, but this time I want to talk about the whole thing of people making a big deal about what they call blue dot fever. And I do see like a lot of people having different takes on it, some of which is like, okay, you have a good point. And then there's other people who come up with such ridiculous things. And for those who don't know, what is blue dot fever? Well, basically it's the whole thing of noticing how there are various different performers who are canceling their shows simply because, well, not a lot of seats are filled in. Usually when a seat is empty, it's marked with a blue dot. And when there's a whole lot of blue dots on the seating chart, it means you're not going to make much money from it. Now, of course, so you do have some people who saying that they're not going to do shows for a bit because of health reasons, and with a lot of people, I can understand that. However, there's also a lot of people out there who will say, "Oh, it's health reasons." In the meantime, they're going to do a show elsewhere, and honestly, I think people who do that not might not be sincere. They might not be honest about their opinion, or whether the facts they want to present, I should be saying. I said opinion because I talk about opinions with this channel of mine. Yeah, there's quite a few other things because I do think that there are people who do stop shows because of health reasons. At the same time, there's also people who do stop shows because they're not going to make a lot of money because after all, you do have money to spend to travel. You have money to spend for the people who's going to be working with you to set up the equipment and stuff like that. And of course, money needs to be given to the respective venues so this way they can actually pay like their taxes and bills and stuff like that. And that's a funny thing that a lot of people seem to forget, that a lot of these venues that host these shows, they do have an actual tax that they gotta pay. So there is that little fact. Kind of funny how there's people who forget that. And of course, so there's other factors as well, though I'm going to go into that in a couple of videos that I'm actually working on. Still writing down notes, though, before having a dedicated script and stuff like that. But onto the video, the subject at hand. I do think that money is a huge factor, not just for the performers, but also the people, because a lot of it seems to be focused more on what's going on with Ticketmaster and the fact that Ticketmaster is having a difficult time basically filling the seats. And a lot of this is true because a lot of people do have their problems with Ticketmaster, noticing how that company will tend to overcharge for seats and whatnot. And I mean, when you have a choice between what you're going to eat for the week or what you're going to enjoy for a couple hours, obviously survival is going to be the thing that's going to be considered more important. So all your money spent on food, rent, utilities, and stuff like that, and you may not have enough to see a show. Granted, stuff like this can also be mitigated by not having so many things to pay to subscribe to, but even if you're not subscribed to anything, you're just paying the basics, even then there are still some people who just don't have the money to see a show. Of course, so there are some instances where this isn't entirely true, seeing how if you look outside of Ticketmaster, there's actually a surprising amount of shows that are actually doing well. Of course, many of them tend to be small venues, and some of which also tend to be of specific personalities that have a fan base who actually will give $10, $15, $20 just to hear the person talk. So, which I don't think is a bad thing, If you like the performer, then by all means, pay them. Okay, seeing how, like I said, because of like taxes and stuff like that, it's rough out there. But if you don't think that's worth your time and money, then don't pay. Plain and simple. But of course, it isn't just a matter of money, it's also a matter of popularity as well. Because like for the longest time, a lot of people have been talking about like these big numbers, these acts who get big on the internet or big in other circumstances or other situations, as we say. Actually, is it situation that's right? I don't really know. But what I do know is that there are a lot of people who are very popular within a circle, and some people act as though that specific social circle is the whole world. When the fact is, there's, in most instances, when it comes to these popular artists, no more than an eighth of the world know who they are. And even if I were to highball it, looking at like Instagram numbers and TikTok numbers, it does seem like approximately 2/3 of the world don't know who these people are. And seeing how these seats will go into the environments that where those other people are, you're just basically hoping that those people will actually give this artist a chance, because to a lot of people out there, someone who's probably like a big name on TikTok and big name on Spotify and whatnot, it could just be to them a new artist, you know? And I know that sounds weird, that sounds ridiculous, but yeah, like I have some numbers set up that I'm going to do for another video, talk about that. But yeah, like even if I'm being generous, the whole highball thing, as they call it, no more, when it comes to most popular people, the vast majority of them, no more than a third of the world knows who they are. And if you're going to ask them to pay at least $100 to spend a couple hours listening to this person that you probably never heard of, don't know if it's going to be worth it. It's like, for a lot of people, that's a big ask. And that's like the big thing, you know? It's not just the whole thing of economics and stuff and health. It's also the fact that a lot of these people tend to be unknown. Matter of fact, when it comes to down to, I do actually watch videos from people like Rick Beata, for example, who talks about the Spotify top 10, and the vast majority of the time, I don't know who these people are. And it's not just me, a lot of people out there. And like I said, you look at the numbers, and I'm going to actually show that right now. Seeing how, yeah, I still have like plenty of time. Because see, here we have like, what does Spotify have? As you see, roughly 760 million users, okay? That's active accounts, including subscribers and whatnot, okay? I need to pull up these numbers so this way you understand what I mean by big names not being popular, okay? And then there's TikTok, active user stats, 1.99 billion, almost 2 billion active accounts. Now, of course, though, some accounts could be shared by multiple other people, sure. But still, that's more than twice of what's on Spotify. But if we look even bigger, these are the largest numbers I see. Instagram, 2.99 billion. Almost 3 billion people are on Instagram. And which is why I would say, like, yeah, give a bit of a high number, because even they're not big on Spotify. If those artists are still active on, if those artists are active on Instagram, there's a good thing that even those who don't use Spotify, who are on Instagram, may know who the artist is. So it's like, okay, cool. But then here's where the big drop is. The global population, 8.3 billion people live on this planet. Now, granted, it isn't exactly 8.3 billion, as you could see down there. It's 8,289,834,989. Of course, with some errors here and there, because, of course, we don't know who has yet to be born and who has yet to die, so there is that, you know. But yeah, you compare that, like, even if I were to, like, go with the high numbers and compare to and go with the low number, 8.2. That is significantly larger than Instagram users. That you could actually say, in a sense, that approximately 3/8 of the world use Instagram. That means that you have a good 5/8 of the world who won't know who these pop stars are because, well, they don't use Instagram, they don't use TikTok, they don't use Spotify. And unfortunately, a lot of these artists, they're so focused on being popular on those platforms that for the rest of us who don't use those platforms, it's a foreign world. It's like looking at a world that we didn't even know exists, like a parallel dimension. And honestly, you're going to look at someone like me and figure, oh, Alex Warren, Morgan Wallen, they're going to be the ones that I'm going to throw down $200 to watch for 2 hours. No. If I had first heard of them, if I was still new to them, I'm not going to throw down $200 and spend 2 hours on those I don't know. And even after listening to their music, I find that I don't like their music. Which is another thing. The few of us who actually look at these Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify stars, a lot of us find them not very interesting. But that is the thing. And many of us also tend to keep to whatever communities we are already in, you know? What are the big songs of that community? So, which is also why we have a splintering when it comes to popular music. You know? Because not everyone's going to use these platforms and not everything's going to be appealing. And I think that's the biggest reason why we have this whole thing of blue dot fever. As well as a splintering of pop culture. Now, of course, though, there comes a question. Why can't those of us who's in the global majority just use TikTok, use Instagram, use Spotify? That's because our time is taken up doing other things. Some of us work regular jobs. Some of us work on projects that we put on other platforms. Like if I start releasing music, am I going to put it on Spotify? No, I'm going to put it on YouTube Music. I'm probably going to get a Bandcamp and put it on Bandcamp. I am not going to just start dividing what little time I have to put stuff on Spotify, search Spotify and stuff like that. And honestly, given what I've seen other people say, I'm not the only one who says this. Because that is another thing that I don't think a lot of people want to really admit. Most of us don't have the time to do it. So, that's the sobering reality of it. Why there's blue dot fever, and as well as why modern music is kind of in the state it is. I do have another video I'm going to do, but that's going to take a long time. So that said, I am Neko Austin, and I thank you for watching.